Hi, everyone. Can I just get a hand wave, those of you with your cameras on, to make sure that everyone can hear me? Perfect. Thank you. So I am Crystal Corbray. I'm the programming and marketing librarian for Yakima Valley Libraries. That might help. For Yakima Valley Libraries. I want to thank all of you for being here for our event tonight. This is the third event in our 2021 Authors Out Loud series. Although we would love to see all of you in person, it is definitely a benefit, and we appreciate all of you being here with us virtually. So before I introduce Rob, I do just want to go through a little bit of housekeeping. We will be recording tonight's session, so if you prefer that your face not appear on the recording, you can go ahead and turn your cameras off. Rob will be doing a presentation and a talk about his book and his writing process. After that, we'll open up the event for audience questions. And the way we'll run questions is you can just go ahead and type your questions into the chat box on the bottom of your screen. And Rob will just kind of read through those and answer those as they come in. So with all of that said, again, thank all of you for being here. And I'm going to go ahead and start with his introduction. So Rob Phillips has spent the majority of his life in Yakima. He graduated from Washington State University in the 1970s and ran a marketing and advertising business for 35 years. He began writing professionally in 1986 and estimates that he has published more than 1,200 newspaper and magazine articles over the last 3 decades. Recently retired, Rob decided to shift his writing skills into the fiction genre, where he's found new success with the Luke McCain mystery series, which is set, as we all know, in the wilderness of eastern Washington and features a fish and wildlife officer named Luke McCain and his yellow lab, Jack. Rob and his wife, Terry, live in Yakima with their own 2 Labrador retrievers. All right, so I'm going to hand this off to Rob. Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and thanks everybody for showing up tonight. I really appreciate it. I recognize several names. I can't see all of you, but I can see some of the names and see some of the pictures of people I know. So thank you for showing up. Before we get started, I'd like to thank a couple people specifically that are here with us tonight. First is my wife Terry. She's on with us. She put up with a lot of heartaches and headaches as I started the writing process and went through this, and she was a big help. She read everything I wrote, and so it was she was a big part of everything that's happened in this book writing endeavor. The second person on that I'd like to thank is Gene Byers. Gene is a retired Washington State wildlife police officer, a game warden. He patrolled the mountains here out of Yakima for many, many years. I don't know how many years it was. Got to be 20 or 25. I played softball with Gene back in the 80s and 90s. When I started with my idea for my book and my character, he was the first guy I thought of, and I've leaned on him heavily for making sure my character was and is somewhat believable. Using the right equipment, using the right language and lingo. And so Gene has been a big part of it. Actually, if you've read my second book, my call letters or call numbers are the same numbers Gene used for his career. So, and then the third person I'd like to thank is Diane Labissinaire. The picture you saw at the front with me leaning against the tree, Diane took that. She's a great friend and photographer, and we thought that photo was going to be in one of the books, and so far it hasn't ended up in the book, but I've used it for a lot of other PR and publicity, so I thank her very much for that. So anyway, Crystal did a nice job of introducing me. Some of you may recognize my name. I've written for the Yakima Herald-Republic since 1991, just an outdoor column. But I've never written in the long form. It's always been 800 words or 1,000 words or 2,000 words, but never tried to write a book until about a year ago. So let's see, we're going to share the screen here and I'll get going with the program. Okay. Can you all see that? Shake your head or wave your hands or something. Okay, it's good. Thank you. So I titled this "So You Want to Write a Novel." I read somewhere just the other day that 86% of the people in the world or the country believe they can write a novel or want to write a novel. Their life experiences or whatever, they want to do it, but only 1% actually achieve it. Um, and so, I always thought about writing a novel and just never really got around to it. But I did. So let me kind of share with you my journey, and as Crystal said, as we get to the end of this, I'll answer a lot of any questions that you might have. So um, it turns out anyone can write a novel, and I mean that honestly. As I started doing a little research, I found out that Amazon will print anything you send to them and turn it into a novel. Um, it's kind of crazy to think about, but I know some people that have done it. It's not turned out incredibly successful for them, but you can do it. All you have to do is get the manuscript to Amazon, and they'll do it. Oh, and it takes a little money. They're not going to do it for free. But if you get your manuscript and get it to them, you can have a book, and you can have it fairly quickly. Yeah, they'll print anything for a price. The thing they won't do is they won't edit it. They won't spell correct. They won't correct your grammar, your English, anything like that. They'll just turn it into a book and print it. So if you ever want to just have a book, you can do it. That's not what I did, but we're getting ahead of ourselves here. So first you have to write. And to write, the first thing you have to do is develop a storyline. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I kind of always thought I might like to do I'm an outdoorsy person. I love to fish and hunt. I have all my life. I grew up here in the Yakima Valley, spent a lot of time outdoors. And I thought, well, how could I create a story that would involve the outdoors? And so immediately started thinking about a game warden or a wildlife police officer. And so that kind of got me going. I thought, okay, so I've got maybe my character. So where can I put him that he's using some of his investigative skills and some of his outdoor knowledge, that type of thing. And so that's kind of where I started. So there you see, there's a fish and wildlife officer. That's kind of who I was thinking of when I started writing my first book. And but I needed to get kind of going with a storyline, and I thought, well, what if? Now, most of you have probably read the book. I assume you have. What if I get a hunter that shoots a black bear, and they find human parts in the black bear when they clean it, when they go to field dress the black bear? Yeah, that might work. That seems like it could be possible. And the funny thing is, and I didn't put the story up here, but I was just looking at some national stories last week, and it turns out, and I don't know if it was in Montana or what state it was, they actually found the hunters shot a black bear, and actually they shot two black bears, and both of the black bears had human remains in the bear's stomach. So it's like fiction is real. It actually happened. So anyway, that's where my story starts. And if you've read it, that's my character is brought in to help the investigation, and we just were off and running from there. So the thing you got to do once you get your storyline. Now, I've talked to other writers. I've read a lot about writing books from other writers. Some of them will put together a complete outline by chapter. They'll get the start, the middle, the crescendo, the ending, and all that. I had no idea where my book was going when I started it. I just started writing. I had the premise of the bear and the human body part, and the women being dumped in the Cascades, but I had no idea where it was going from there. No clue. I had no idea who the murderer was. I had no idea how Luke was going to catch him. I just kept writing, and I wrote and I wrote and wrote some more. And then once you start writing, there's some kind of strange questions that popped up in your head, or at least they did in mine. Like, first of all, how many words in a novel? I had no idea. Seems like I'd written and written and written and written and written, and I had no idea how long a novel needed to be. So I did just like anybody else would do. I Googled it, and when I Googled it, it said, you know, for a good mystery novel, you probably need a minimum of 50,000 words, and maybe 60 or possibly 70 or even 80. And some of them, some writers are even up to 100, 120. So, and then the little line down below said, and this was what cracked me up, it said, if you're asking, you've probably written about 25,000 words. So I looked at my computer screen and looked down at the bottom. Sure enough, I'd written 25,000 words. I was only halfway there. So I had to write some more and write and write and write. Had a little laptop computer up in the bedroom of our house looking out over the Natchez River, which is good inspiration, and just kept writing and writing. And so there were some other challenges as well. The first part was naming characters. You don't think about that, but not only does your main characters need a name, your main character needs a name, your other characters do, but I kept bringing other characters in that either Luke was contacting through his job out in the field, or, you know, friends or whatever. And so you've got to name every one of those people. And first was naming my main guy. I thought Luke would be a cool, strong name, you know. So I was thinking of a last name. I'm going, what would be a good last name? Oh, McCain. Lucas McCain. Some of you are old enough to remember the rifleman on television back in the 60s and 50s. I thought, okay, let's name him Lucas McCain. My guy's in the 2000s or 2010s, 2020s. He probably doesn't even know Lucas McCain, but there will be some people he will run across as the book goes along that do know the name of Lucas McCain, and they start calling him the rifleman because of that. And so I kind of had some fun with that and played with that. I actually even thought about naming the book The Rifleman, but went away from that after thinking about it. So a lot of people have asked me, well, what do you think Luke McCain looks like? Well, he's 6'4", almost 6'5". He weighs 227. Good looking guy, strong. I thought, well, you know, Tom Selleck, if they were ever to make a movie of my books, I thought, well, Tom Selleck could be a really good Luke McCain. And then I started thinking, well, Tom Selleck's like 75 or something, so he couldn't probably play that part. But that would be kind of cool if it would have been him in the day. So then I started thinking, well, how about Chris Pratt? He's from the Northwest. He's a young guy, good-looking guy, strong. And so when my book gets made into a movie, I'm going to lobby for Chris Pratt to be the main character. And you know, what are the chances of that? Pretty slim. And then my next character came into the book 3 or 4 chapters into the book is Sarah Sinclair, and she's tall, beautiful, dark hair. And I kind of thought, you know, maybe this gal here might be. I can never remember her name, but she was in the Men in Black movies, and that's who I was thinking of when I came up with that character. Maybe I'm spoiling it, and you guys have somebody else in your mind, but that's what's fun about a book is you can create, you know, the characters in your mind. So. But the real star of the show, as you know, is the yellow Labrador Jack. He's 105 pounds, and he's smart. He's got a good nose. He loves to eat, just like all labs do. And this is kind of how I see Jack being just a big yellow lab and just a pretty dog. And so that's how I envision him. So there's the main characters. But like I said, there's a lot of other characters. And so how do you come up with those names? Well, I started thinking anytime I was watching TV, or if I was looking at the paper and I'd read the obituaries or something, I'd see a first name that would be kind of cool, or a last name that would be kind of cool. And so I started writing them down. You can see some of the names up here in the right-hand corner of this photo. But Terry saw that I was having some issues with coming up with names, so she bought me the name book. And I mean, if we'd been 20 years younger and she handed me the name book, I'd have thought we were having another kid. Luckily, I knew that was almost impossible. So anyway, so then the other thing that I never thought about is you got to keep track of your characters. Well, I introduced a couple of Yakima sheriff's deputies in the first couple chapters, and then I kind of went away from them And then I had to go all the way back and reread what I was doing to figure out which character it was I'd written named. So I started doing kind of a cheat sheet. I take a 8.5 by 11 tablet. I'd say, the Yakima County coroner is Dan Duncan. Walt Ashford's the name of the old guy up in the Nile, blah, blah, blah. So that way, when I brought back that character, I knew his name or her name and how I spelled it, etc. And you just, again, you don't think about those things. You think that name would pop right back up into your mind, but obviously it doesn't. There's another list. These little tablet lists here are names of first names and last names that I've compiled, and the ones that are crossed out are names that have ended up in the book. And you might recognize some Yakima names there. Like I said, I've either kind of shirt-tail relatives or friends, or that's how I've got those names. I've given this talk to a couple of service clubs, and they've actually asked if I would accept money to put one of their members' names in my next book and make him a villain or something, make him a killer or something. I might take money for that. I don't know. So anyway, so then the other thing you need to do, and I'll be the first to tell you, I am lazy when it comes to this stuff. My newspaper column's gotten me in trouble a few times. And the book, I thought, as I wrote the book, I'm going, I've got to do my fact checking. I got to make sure that if I say Rimrock Lake is, 670,000 acres or, whatever it might be, I've got to make it right, because sure enough, somebody's going to catch you and check you on it and call you out on it. It's happened in my newspaper column several times where I've made an error, and that people are just perched waiting for you to make a mistake. So I about wore out a gazetteer checking Forest Service road numbers and just those types of things. And I'm sure I've still made some mistakes. But you got to do it. It's not fun. I think the big time writers, the John Grishams and those people, they've got helpers, assistants, secretaries, assistants, whatever, that help do that for them. Well, I'm just little old me here writing a local book. But so far, I've not really caught heck from anybody for anything being wrong. So it's been a year ago. I started when the COVID hit, late March, early April. Governor Inslee shut us all the way down, even for outdoor activities, which was absolutely asinine, if you ask me. As we found out later, it was. But so for the month of April and into May, I couldn't do anything. My work was shut down, outdoors were shut down. And so I thought, what better time than to sit down and maybe start writing a book? I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know, what the outcome would be. I had no idea if it would even come to fruition, but I thought I'll give it a try. And 24 days later, I had my first draft, which was crazy to me. But some days I'd spend 4 hours, some days I'd spend 7 hours, some days I'd spend 11 hours, and I'd get into it and I'd enjoy it, and I'd have some fun with, some of the news people, or I'd have some fun with a couple of characters out in Natchez, and I just kind of enjoyed it. And as I wrote, I'd sent my chapters to a few readers. I sent chapters to my two grown sons. They're way smarter than me. They're really good readers. They read a lot. So I just sent them a chapter or two, and they were very encouraging. I knew that they would tell me if it was, crummy writing or crap, that they didn't like it. But they'd make some suggestions. But they were very encouraging. They kept saying, "Dad, keep going. This has some legs, and this might work." And I sent it to a few other friends as well, and they all, to a person, were very encouraging and said they really liked it. So, surprisingly, they liked it. So, let's see, where do we go? Why isn't it moving? Oh, there. So the next step was finding a publisher. Again, I knew that there was the option of going to Amazon and just sending the script. And I honestly thought maybe that was how I was going to end up doing it. I called up a guy I used to work with at the Herald. He was actually my editor, Scott Sansbury. He had written a book when he retired and published it. So I said, "How did you publish your book, Scott?" And he says, "Well, I did it through Amazon." And he said, what's your book about? And I told him a little bit about it. And he said, well, you know what? He says, there's there's a publisher in Spokane that specializes in regional books, outdoor kind of oriented books. You might want to give him a call. So I did. He's an independent publisher, and I chatted with him, and I sent him my transcript, and he said, you know what, you got something going here. It needs a little work, but he says there's two things we can do. He says I can publish it for you, or I can work and try to get you a big contract with a New York publisher. He said right now the chances of that are slim to none. He said so I said, well, heck, I'll try it. And so it costs money. They're not paying you to write a book. You're paying him to get the book published. So you're paying for his editing, all his work on the cover designs, getting the book ready with all the numbers that need to be there to make it a legitimate book, all those things. And he helped me pick a title, although I kind of had the title already done. He sent me back for a rewrite. He went all the way through the book. It looked like an English teacher had gone through and just X'd out paragraphs and pages and corrected different things and said, now rewrite it. And I thought, God, that's the last thing I want to do is rewrite this thing. But he convinced me that it would become a better book. He said, you can keep it the way you want it. He says, but he says, this will make it a better book. And he was totally right. And I think, I don't know how many writers he deals with, but, I think he was thinking that it'd be another 2 or 3 months before I got back to him with a rewrite. Well, I sat down and finished my rewrite in about 4 days and sent it back to him, and he couldn't believe it. I wanted the book to get published. So anyway, so we got that done. And then, so the next step, and this was all new to me, I had no idea how everything worked, was he sent me about 10 copies of what is called an advanced review copy. It looks like the book. There still might be some corrections inside, but that's the book you send out to people that you want to review your book. Luckily, I had worked with a number of editors in magazines and in the outdoors and some writers. So I just called in favors and said, hey, would you guys mind reviewing my book, giving it a little review that maybe we can use either on the website or in the book itself. The publisher said reviews and a good cover really help sell a book. And so you need some good reviews. So I sent it out, and luckily I heard from a couple after they did the review that said they were afraid to tell me yes because they thought it might stink and they didn't want to tell me that it stinks. But to one, they loved the book, gave me really nice reviews, and I think that helped kind of get the thing off the ground. So that was in about August. All this has taken place over the summer, all their work, getting the book ready and stuff. It's slower than I wanted, but it is what it is. So once we got the reviews and all the things in there, then I finally had, here's some of the reviews. If you've got the book, you've seen the reviews, but I just thought they were really nice reviews. And these were some of the people that did the reviews. This Rich Phillips in the middle, no relation to me. He's a retired game warden. He writes a review for International Game Warden magazine, which really helped. But after I sent him the book, I was fishing down at Drano Lake probably with Greg. I see Greg Wilson here. And I got a call from him just out of the blue. And he said, Rob, this is Rich Phillips. I said, oh, yeah. Hi, Rich. How you doing? He says, I'm doing okay. He says, I want to tell you. He says, I did not want to like your book. He says, I review books from all kinds of game wardens and game warden stories. He says, I just didn't want to like it. I said, well, why is that? He goes, because they're not realistic, or they're all this kind of the same thing. He says, I have to tell you, I loved your book. It was real to life, entertaining, blah, blah, blah. He went on and on and on. And I thought, well, there you go. That really made me feel good. So anyway, so we got the reviews. And then about October 1st, or 15th, I actually had a book. There you can see one of the reviews on the front cover from a publisher, Western Hunting Journal. I've written for him many times. And boom, I had a book. Not only did I have one book, I had 150 books. I picked them up in Spokane. And then I thought, holy smokes, what am I going to do now? I got 150 books to sell. How am I going to sell all these books? And as Crystal mentioned at the beginning, my main lifetime as job has been marketing and advertising. I thought, okay, I can do this. I can sell these books. So I put on my marketing hat and started thinking about it. Thought, how am I going to get these out there? And the first thing I thought about was, how am I going to market this thing? First thing I thought about was a display. I started researching these pre-made displays. I had an artist here at the company I work at come up with some graphics for it. Terry was the genius in building displays. I couldn't put the things together, but she built them. And we started putting these displays together. I put my hat in my hand and wandered over to Inkling's bookstore and talked to Susan. And she was a little familiar with my work, but I think she gets a lot of local authors coming through the door. And frankly, I don't think she has had a lot of success with them. But I had her read the book. She liked it. And then I showed her my display and boom, she put it up and the things just started flying out the door. And she was quite happy about that, actually, as was I. And then I started thinking, well, what does it have to go in bookstores? Luke ends up at the hardware store in Natchez 2 or 3 different times. So I went out to Jason out at the Ace Hardware store out in Natchez, Oak Creek Hardware, and said, hey, Jason. I let him read the book. He loved it. I said, can we put up a book display? He goes, yeah, let's do. And there again, they just started flying out the door. And after that, he had them put in the 2 other hardware stores down in Yakima. And then about a month ago, I got it into the True Value hardware store out in Sela, and it's selling pretty good out there too. Hardware store people are book readers, evidently. We had a book signing right the Saturday after Thanksgiving out at Oak Creek Hardware. That helped, and we've had a couple more. I did one at Inkling's here about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So those types of things help. So it's just gone really well. Inklings says to help sell more books, it helps to have the author sign the books. So about once a month, they order a bunch more books, and I go down there and I sign every one of them. I didn't know book signing was such a big thing, but it is, I guess. I've written for the paper since 1991. Nobody's ever asked for my autograph, and now I don't know how many books I've signed, couple thousand probably, and just came up with a little deal, and didn't want to just sign my name, so I came up with this little deal, and that's how I signed the books. The other thing I did, and again, this was my marketing background, was I just reached out to some local media. I contacted Alan Sillens at KIMA TV. I gave him my book. He read it. He liked it. And he did a nice story for me on KIMA during the sports section, or the sports on one evening. And radio, I went to KIT, and Dave and Lance did a 15-minute interview with me and talked about the book. And then the newspaper, because I write for the paper, I don't think they were real fired up about doing much. But luckily, Susan, the owner of Inklings, did one of her reviews for it and really liked it. We got a half-a-page story in the paper, and again, that helped. And it was right before Thanksgiving, as people were thinking about Christmas gifts and stuff. Timing was really good. So that worked out well. And then in December, I didn't realize she even did this, but they keep track of their best booksellers and do a story every quarter. And I mean, I was only on the market for about a month, and the Cascade Killer came in as their best-selling book, not only that quarter, but ever. I don't think they've ever sold that many books, had at that point or to this point, have ever sold that many books of anyone's books. And that include a couple of former presidents and some other things. So I was pretty honored by that. And I thank everyone that bought the book, because it just was cool. I've sold way more books than I ever thought I'd sell, let me tell you. So yeah, now to date, Inklings has sold over 1,000 copies of the Cascade Killer, and that's probably about 900 more than I thought I'd ever sell, honestly. So it's kind of cool. And so far, over 4,000 have been sold. The Ace Hardware has probably sold close to 1,000 in itself. And Amazon, I don't know. I don't know how many I've sold, honestly. It's got to be over 2,000 on Amazon. My publisher told me at the time that Amazon was really going to carry the water on this deal. If I was going to ever really going to sell a bunch of books, and maybe nationally, Amazon was going to be the one. It's just there's just so many books on Amazon. It's hard to break through all that. But I'm trying and having fun doing so. Again, my publisher said, to really get your book going, you're going to need some good 4 and 5 star reviews. And so we kind of primed the pump a little bit. He says, get some of your friends and family to read it and then write a review. I don't tell them not to lie. Tell them to be honest. Well, I did, and it got rolling, and my publisher was amazed at how many reviews I got in the first couple months. And now I honestly, I don't look at the reviews. I learned a long time ago that you're not going to make everybody happy, or I'm not going to make everybody happy with my writing. There's going to be people that don't like it and going to tell you so, but that's okay. But I know I've got well over 240, maybe, I don't know how many more it is now. Terry watches that way closer than I do. I just learned to have a thick skin and just not really pay attention to it. But that's really helped, I think, with the Amazon sales. So, and I have to say, it is kind of cool to click on Amazon and write your name in and the name of the book, and boom, it pops up. Yeah, I had 139 ratings way back when I took that screenshot back in November, or December. So anyway, it's just cool to see your book up there and know that it's selling. I am selling the Kindle version and the paperback, and I do also have an audio book of both the Cascade Killer and my second book as well. This was a early on review. To start off, right after October 15th, when we got the book on Amazon and out there, my publisher says, we'll offer the ebook, the Kindle version, whatever, for free, so people can get it, read it, and maybe they'll leave a nice review. And this guy left a review. He said, I received it free from Amazon. It was a very good read, good plot, likable characters, very good editing. Looking forward to more stories, 3 stars. And I thought, well, yeah, thanks a lot, buddy. But anyway, again, thick skin, don't worry about that stuff. So as I mentioned, yeah, Amazon audio version is available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. This is an interesting deal, getting your book on Audible. You have to find somebody to read the darn thing. I wasn't going to do it myself. I've got a nasally voice, as you all can tell, just probably boring you to tears already listening to me speak now. But and I'm not a very good reader either. But so my publisher had 2 or 3 voices that he offered up as possibles, and we liked one gentleman. He was there in Spokane, and I thought, oh my gosh, how much is this going to cost me? Because we have radio commercials produced, and it costs $200 or $300, and that's only 30 seconds. This is a 7-hour book. How much can it cost? He goes, it'll be $650. And I said, okay, we can do that. He says, and it'll help with all your sales if you get an Audible book. There are people that prefer to take their books via the Audible way, and so we've sold quite a bit. I've already made my $650 back for having the guy read the book. The funny thing is, even though he was from Spokane, he murdered Natchez, Tieton, Cowiche, Wapato, Sela. He couldn't say any of those names correctly. So I had to sit and listen to my own book for 7 hours and make sure he corrected him on every one of those words. And even then, he still boogered a few up. So, but anyway, I've got an Audible book out there. And if you're not from around here, you won't know that he's saying Sela instead of Sela, or Natchez instead of Natchez. So it bugs the heck out of me, but oh well. So what's next? Well, I wrote put this presentation together a while ago. So, but I've been working on it, expanding my market. I've done real well in Central Washington. I've got books in Ellensburg and a few other places. But I really, the Puget Sound's a big market. I'm working on getting over there. I'm hoping to get some reviews in the bigger papers over there. and then maybe nationwide. That's where a guy can really make some money, is by selling around the country. I don't know if it's going to have any appeal around around the nation, but I'm going to keep trying. And the other thing I'm going to keep doing is writing books. And as you know, I've already got my second book has been released. It was released in February. It's called Cascade Vengeance. If you haven't read it, it's a story about it includes Luke and Jack and Sarah, and it's somebody is killing the workers in the illegal pot fields up in the Cascades, and Luke gets involved by trying to find a lost hunter, and then he kind of gets worked into the deal, trying to find out who's shooting these workers in the pot fields and some of the drug trade around Yakima. So it's pretty timely. It's fun to write, and I brought some of my characters back, and so far it's doing pretty well. It's not doing quite as well as the Cascade Killer, but it's doing well, and it keeps selling. So there's the Cascade Vengeance. You can see the cover there. I didn't recognize this. I'm pretty naive, but those are pot plants, by the way. And then when I was giving this presentation a while back, someone goes, "Did you shoot that out your back window?" No, I didn't shoot that photo out my back window. You can find a photo. You can find a photo for anything on the internet, I guess, and that's where my publishers found that photo. So, and then the book number 3, people are asking about book number 3 in the series. I finished the Cascade Predator about 2 months ago, and we're now in the process of getting it ready to go out for the advanced review copies. I was hoping to have it out by Father's Day. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. I'm trying to do it. Here's the cover of that one, and I'll tell you just a little bit about what the premise is for this book. There's the Puyallup Fair over in Puyallup, this Washington State Fair over in Puyallup is in September, and they've hired a guy from Florida to bring his his cats are not wild, they're exotic, a tiger, a lion, several smaller ones, ocelot and caracal, and some smaller cats to the fair. And a kind of a crazy animal lover person in Seattle sees the commercial advertising that, decides that she wants to set the cats free. She figures out a way to kind of hijack the trailer and truck coming from Florida, does so, drives it up into the Cascades, turns the cats loose, and Luke and Jack come along, and they are trying to find these cats that get turned loose. In the meantime, a motorcycle rider gets attacked by a cat. They don't know if it's one of these or a different cat, what's going on there. And so it all takes place in a 10-day period. And I enjoyed writing it probably as much or more than any of the other books I've written. And it's a little different. You know who the bad guys and girls are from the start. It's just, how's Luke going to find him and catch him? And it's a really fun kind of story. So it's longer than the other two. As I've written, the second book was longer than the first, and this third book is a little longer than the third or the second book. And I haven't started writing book number 4 yet, but I will here as soon as we kind of get this one rocking and rolling. So I'm enjoying it, and as long as I'm enjoying it and people are enjoying it, I'm going to I think I'm going to keep writing them as long as I've got storyline ideas that are actually believable and might actually happen. I may have to take my characters into northern Washington or maybe into Idaho or Montana, just to kind of change it up a little bit, so he's not just driving up Highway 12 or Highway 14 every time. This one is set basically around, third book is set around Roslyn and Cle Elum, up in the mountains that way. And so it's a little different territory, but anyway, I think that's it. I will stop sharing my screen, and I'll take any questions you might have.
I have a question. Was there any point while you were writing this you said that you wrote it pretty quickly and even your revisions you got through pretty quickly. Was there any point where you ran into writer's block or you were just stuck?
I would say maybe a little, a couple times where I just didn't quite know where the story was going, or if I, again, as I was 3/4 of the way through Cascade Killer, and I still didn't know who the bad guy was. I laid some kind of clues. Of course, we were following the guy that was the river guide. Kind of I was pointing that direction, and could have carried through with him. And some people were a little disappointed or surprised it wasn't him, but that's kind of what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to kind of surprise people. But I still didn't know exactly who the killer was going to be, or even how Luke and Jack were going to catch him. So there were some times where I had to just kind of sit back and brainstorm and think about it. But I wouldn't say it was, no, I wouldn't say it was writer's block. I've been writing long enough. I've got a deadline of Tuesday morning every week for my column in the Yakima Herald. I don't write it in weeks in advance. I write it that week. And so there's times where I've sat down on a Tuesday morning going, dang, what am I going to write about this week? And then something will come to me. It might be writing about blue tarps or boot socks or, something goofy, but or my dogs. My dogs have saved me many times because people really like my dog stories, and I can usually come up with something about my dogs. So I guess to answer the question is no, I didn't really have any real writer's block. Once I kind of had the idea, and then it just kind of flows out of me. I love writing dialogue. And I hope that shows in the books. I try to have fun with it and make it believable, maybe have a little humor. And so, if I get tired of writing or run out of ideas, I just kind of quit for a day or a few hours and then kind of recharge and go at it again. So.
Thank you. So I actually, unlike you, when I'm writing the libraries column for the newspaper, I often just sit there kind of staring at a blank Word document with the blinking cursor. But that's a good idea. I might need to just lean on my dog a little bit more. Yeah, he's been a freeloader for long enough, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
He needs to start earning his keep a little bit.
Again, people really like the dog story. So.
Do you have any other questions? Anyone that wants to type into chat? If you're a little bit too shy to unmute yourself, or you can go ahead and raise your hand. Oh, looks like Mary, you've unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I did. I assume that you've read some other mystery writers so that you've got kind of a feel for the genre. I was just wondering, your book sort of reminds me of John Sanford's Virgil Flowers series, because you've got Virgil, he's going out into small towns, he's meeting quirky people, he's having and he's good, Sanford's pretty good with dialogue, and I just wondered if you had.
Yeah, it's funny you should ask that, Mary. John Sanford's my favorite author, and Virgil Flowers are my favorite books. I mean, I like the Lucas Davenport books a lot, but Virgil Flowers are my favorite. And so to be compared with him a little bit is a really a kind of an honor. I tried not to copy him. But I did. I mean, I guess that's what I'm kind of thinking, is I'm hoping people will enjoy it as much as I think they enjoy the Sanford books. The funny thing is, a friend of mine, he's an attorney here in town. After I gave this presentation to the Rotary Club, he said, "Hey Rob, do you know who John Camp is?" And I'd seen the name and I recognized it, and I thought, well, no, I've heard the name, but I don't know it. He goes, well, he's goes by the name John Sanford. He's written a bunch of books, and this guy didn't seem to know John Sanford. I said, "Are you kidding me? Huh? I know who John Sanford is." He says, "Well, I just spent a week with him down in Florida on a boat fishing." he says, I could call him up and talk to him about your books and and see if see if he'd like to read one or maybe review it or something. I said, well, gosh, that would be just beyond my wildest dreams. But and I haven't taken him up on it. I might send him this third book and see if maybe I could get it to John Sanford, John Kemp, to see if he'd review it. That would be a real coup in my mind. So yeah, I do. I'm not a big reader. I'm not a real great reader. I've got dyslexia to some extent, so I'm a slow reader. But I love the John Sanford books. Lee Child is another one of my favorite authors. Although it ticks me off about the Lee Child books because his character, as you know or may not know, is Jack Reacher. They've made a couple of movies about it. Well, Jack Reacher in the book is 6'5". He's 250 pounds. He's got a scar down the side of his face, and then when they made the movies, they made it with why can't I think of his name?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, and he's 5'4" and good-looking guy. Then and it just that's not who I pictured when I read the Lee Child's Jack Reacher book. So it's funny how they kind of goof that up when they turn a book into a movie. But yeah, what are you going to do?
Well, you and I could keep talking about Jack Reacher and Tom Cruise. Apparently they're going to make the next movie with somebody who's big and ugly, sort of ugly.
Good. Well, it makes it more realistic.
Yeah, but somebody else probably has a question too.
Okay. I will tell you. Go ahead.
Hi, I teach at a local high school, and I taught a true crime class first trimester this year. And we were just talking about crime books in general and what students like to read and what they didn't read. And this one young lad, he says, "Hey, Mrs. Joshin," he said, "I read the Cascade Killer. Do you know anything about it?" And he was all excited because his dad bought the book. And he says, "I don't even like to read, and I like that book." And he says, "You know what the best part was? The dog." So anyway, the long and the short of it is he really enjoyed the book, and he said it was the first book he read cover to cover. So good job on that.
Well, thank you, Karen. Yeah, I've had a couple of calls from grown men. These were men who said, "Hey, Rob," they either calls or texts or emails that said that one guy said, "I've only read 2 books in my life, and I read yours was the second book I've ever read in my life." And I thought, well, that's an honor, but it's also kind of sad that the person's missed out on so much by not reading. And then one of my buddies goes, "Rob, that's the best book I've read in 40 years. And I said, well, why is that? He goes, "You know why that is, isn't it?" And I said, "Why is that?" He goes, "Because I haven't read a book in 40 years. So that was kind of a backhanded compliment. But yeah, when I first got the book out there, a couple friends contacted me, and they just started the book, and they said, "If you tell me that dog dies in this book, I will not read another page. I'm not." And I said, "No, don't worry. Jack's the star of the show. He's going to carry this series for a while. So Jack's not going to die." But it's funny how people have kind of suggestions or ideas. A couple of the ladies that Terry works with at her high school started reading it, and they came back and told her that they thought that Luke and the neighbor, Austin's mom, should get together. And I, honestly, when I first started writing, I thought that might happen. But then in came Sarah Sinclair, and she kind of stole Luke's heart. So that didn't quite happen. But and you might recognize, most all my characters are fiction for the most part, but you might recognize a couple if you know who Simon the news guy is. If you watch KIMA TV, you might see there's a resemblance to one of the reporters on KIMA, and then the guy with the Jim Kingsbury, the guy with the T-shirts. I just thought it'd be fun to have, something kind of a character that, is around all the time, and he's kind of quirky and stuff. And I thought, well, that'd be kind of fun with the T-shirts, and everyone asked, did you come up with all those sayings on his t-shirts? I wish I could take credit for them. I will see one, I'll see a bumper sticker, I'll see something on the internet, and I'll write it down thinking, okay, that's going to be a t-shirt saying for Jim Kingsbury. And a couple of my early readers said, you need to start printing up shirts with those sayings on. I bet you could sell them. And I got enough to do trying to sell a book. But anyway, that's been kind of a fun part of the book series too.
Okay, looks like we have time for one more question if anyone wants to chime in here.
Just a statement. If you keep writing them, I'll keep reading them. I enjoy it so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's always nice to hear from readers, and again, I really appreciate everybody zooming in tonight. It would have been nice to do this in person, and I think we're going to get to start doing some of that here pretty quick. But I really appreciate your time and listening to me ramble on here.
Yeah, again, so thank you again, Rob, for joining us tonight, and thank you everyone who joined us for the presentation. We're going to wrap things up. I do want to give you a heads up that you'll be receiving a survey in your email just to kind of give us some feedback on tonight's presentation. We're looking for suggestions or recommendations for upcoming programs. So if you could respond to that, we would appreciate that as well. And just a reminder that our next and last event will be with author Ellen Elmendinger. She's a local historian here in Yakima. So that'll be next week on the 19th. So again, thank you all for joining us, and we're going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.